So in terms of the 32 parts of the body, you can't see your brain, your lungs, intestines, etc. So that when you think about it, when you want to contemplate your brain, your lungs, then that idea is there, that thought is there. But it is that, so now I'm attending that thought, and then I'm picking up the sign of those things.
Yeah, well, there's a difference there. That's exactly. The only way people would approach this, the only way they would know how, is through attending. In other words, they will be attending that thought as if that's really attending to your brain, which you can't. So the only way to see these body parts correctly in the relevant contemplation manner is indirectly, without attending them directly as objects of your attention. You have to discern them as that because of which you are here living, attending to things. So that's the difference where people do, well, that's the difference between doing the body contemplation rightly and wrongly. Wrongly is basically just repeating these parts and visualizing them and thinking that somehow, I mean, it might provide you initial kind of reduction of sensual craving, because you never think about those things, but very soon you'll get used to it and it will become meaningless. Because you can't see those things directly. That's why in Paticcasamuppada the Salayatana, the sixth sense base, is the ultimate indirect. It's the ultimate peripheral. It's the ultimate that because of which there is the world for you. You are perceiver. You are the conceiver of it. That's why when the when the Buddha describes these the sixth sense base, it's described in that almost external medical manner, the fleshy eye, the nose, and so on. Because that's the closest you can see it. You can't see it directly. You cannot attend to your eye. You can only attend to the object. But that's not the eye because of which you see things. But you misconceiving it, that that's the eye because of which you see things, you start assuming that you can attend that because of which your attention is there. So you have to stop trying to attend the eye, the nose, but start discerning it as a basis, as a physical basis for the world to exist for you.
But then,
so in the same sense, like you can be attending at the cup, attending at the table, attending at the image of your brain. But you're just regarding these things as overly objectified objects of your attention, so to speak. In a way, they have something in common. They are all material. But you don't want to regard your brain just as you regard a cup, because cup is insignificant to you. You want to discern that that objective brain that you are thinking about is the reason for your subjectivity, because of which you're able to attend to the idea of the brain in the first place.
So what you just said there, I must keep saying that to myself, and again say that to myself.
Well, you might have to initially to remind yourself to kind of recreate the right order of things that you can dwell on it. But after a while you don't have to. After a while it will be enough just to, because you will know how to look indirectly. You will know how to see things without having to look at them. And that's another thing. I think people might misunderstand in these the talks on YouTube and stuff when we mention, the simultaneous presence. People might end up thinking it's like two things at the same time momentarily present in front of me. But when I say simultaneous presence, the way the suttas talk about it, it's basically two things are present on two different levels. Which means they're not there equally present at the same time for a second or two, and you must catch them both at the same time. No, you're just trying to catch one thing. Again, you can divide it into millions of subparts. Your attention is still looking at that foreground of an object. So when we talk about simultaneous presence, that's why I keep saying it endures. The peripheral endures, which means in this case, say you have an image of your brain that you don't overly attend as a random object in the world that you tell then to yourself, I see this body is not mine. No, you see that image of the brain, you stop misconceiving it, as the Buddha would say, and you start discerning it, that's the closest. The closest you can get to that which actually your life depends upon, to that form. The closest you can get is through these images of the brain, lungs, heart, blood, and so on. You realize all of them stand for that because of which you are conscious here living this life. But you can't possibly enter that brain, as in access it through your perception or anything like that, because it precedes it. But you can know that the image of the brain that you have, that on that peripheral level, is that because of which you are able to, again, be here and now, present, and attend to these various other things that arise. In other words, then when you stop thinking about the brain, your knowledge that that's the order of your experience, as in you are undermined by the matter, doesn't change. And that's what I mean, it's simultaneously present. You don't have to keep you can forget about it rightly. It will basically will constitute rightful forgetfulness, which is when your forgetfulness does not induce avijja anymore. But you don't have to keep thinking. It's impossible to keep thinking about everything all the time.
Yeah, that's what I think sometimes you have to do. You have to, because you can't really think. Okay, brain.
Exactly. Because you just keep then forcing it into the foreground, and then you fail to see what the peripheral there is, which means you have now overly misconceived that brain, and you're making it into an object of your perception, which is impossible for it to be. Yeah. Eye cannot see itself.
But because one wants to
develop... So, let me just say it like this, I wanted to add this. Yeah. So, like, say you think about the brain rightly, peripheral, you discern the image of the brain and you recognize there is the brain in here because of which my experience still exists. And then you stop thinking about it. And then 3 hours later, you think about it again. And it's important here to induce the attitude if you have to. Eventually, you will recognize it as such. It's important when 3 hours later you think about the brain again, you recognize that it's the same brain that has been here this whole time. The fact that you forgot about it did not make it not there. So then even like with moods or feelings, say you have a present mood arisen, it's sort of, I don't know, agreeable. But then you start attending to more particular things and then you don't go around thinking how agreeable your day is. But then later, 4-6 hours later, you sort of look back and you remember it again, that it's agreeable. It's the same mood. And that's what I mean, you have to let it endure. Basically, that means that when you bring it back, you don't make it yours, but you recognize it as it has been enduring on its own. That's how you start discerning the simultaneous principle I'm talking about. Simultaneous in a sense that, yeah, the general mood, the general notion of the matter being there, for example, in the contemplation of the body, it's been there enduring on its own, whether you thought about it or not. So when you do remember, you will eventually stop giving priority to I remember this, and I'm attending this, and now I'm practicing this. You just find it. Yeah. So it's simultaneously present with everything else you do when you don't attend to that. It's the necessary basis, basically, for your action, for your choice, for your attention.
But when can you, because obviously you want to develop the domain, as you say, you want to develop the domain, like background, domain.
Mm-hmm.
So one wants to then develop it. Like, okay, I've got nothing to do now.
Okay.
I'm going to develop that, but then
so
I think about it a while and then I forget about it.
Yeah, you develop it by learning how to discern that it's already there.
Sure, but then
you have to forget about it.
Yeah. After a minute?
After a minute, that's fine. Then when you remember about it, you want to abandon the attitude of I must restart this practice because I forgot about it. But instead, you want to develop recognition. Oh, yeah, it's still there. That's pretty much the crucial difference that I'm talking about, because many people say be here now, be present, just feel, just this, it's just like that and whatnot. But it all revolves, just come back to the present moment, come back to the present moment. You want to recognize that when you come back to the present moment, You could only do so because it was there enduring beforehand.
It was always there.
So then you realize you can't forget about it even if you want. You are responsible for your own ignorance because you are responsible for the attitude of thinking it's on you to hold it in front of you and that's the only way of existing. So you forget about it after a minute, then you remember it after 5 minutes, and then you think, oh crap, I forgot about it. I must do it again now. As if you are the one who does it from the scratch. No. So each time that attitude arises, you include that attitude in that mindfulness as well. It's not rooted in you, it's rooted in the enduring background. That's what the mind is, by the way, the ultimate background. The Chittanimitta. And that's why he knows the mind as exalted or as shrank or as depressed or as elated. These states that people obviously almost automatically appropriate are the states of mind. As such, it endures. 5 days later, you remember it again. The only reason you can remember it is because it's still there enduring to some extent. And what will that do? This kind of practice of mindfulness, you cannot just, you can't be treading water with it. If you keep doing it, it is forcing you basically to shift the center of your experience from your sense of self onto the background of the things and even the actual things that you're attending, because you realize that they're there because of the background. In other words, you start squeezing your own sense of self out. There is no room for it in the experience. Because whether you look at the background, whether you're attending the foreground, you realize it can be done so only because these things endure on their own beforehand. And in terms of the peripheral, as I said, 6 days later you remember something, it's because for 6 days it's been enduring there. The state of mind. So that's how you stop worrying about, I must not forget, I must not forget. But instead start focusing on, I must discern whenever I remember. I must not misconceive whenever I remember. And the most fundamental misconceiving is mine. As in, I am here, the center, not this thing that I remember because of which I am in the first place.
So whatever your mind, whatever you attend to at any given time, that must induce a remembering of the way things are.
Well, you don't even have to say that. You can just say whatever you attend to, just be aware of what you're doing. So include yourself in that picture. And that where that sense of self is, that's already where the background is. But now, instead of sort of feeling that each time you remember you must restart and then hold as long as you can, you drop that whole attitude or stop paying attention to it. But instead, whenever you remember, even if it's once a day, on a day that you are very distracted, you still don't try to now I remember I must hold it. No, I remember it as already there, arisen beforehand, not mine, not for me, not myself, cannot be mine. And that automatically affects everything else within that background, within that peripheral. But it's going to take time to see that, because now the emphasis is on what I attend. That's what matters. So that's why you try to keep, okay, so I'm attending onto this, I'm attending onto this. Then you forget, then you think, oh, now I have to do it again. No, you don't. Because the only reason you can attend to anything is because it's there given as an option, which means it exists on the peripheral, where the possibilities exist. So practically speaking, you think about your brain, your heart, your lungs. You can attend to it directly if you want, but don't misconceive it. Don't think that it's that really which heart is. It's an approximation that you determine whether it's going to be right if you don't misconceive it, or wrong if you misconceive it. So practically you think about, there is this brain, there are these bones, there are these sinews, there is this flesh. And that is the reason for me being able to look at these bones, sinews. So once you start attending to it correctly, there is the heart, the lungs and so on. That's it. You don't have to try to keep it in front of you, because it's not in front of you. You're looking at that which determines your experience as you know it. The necessary condition for it, which is presence of the matter. So once you brought it to your mind, you do so in order to let it go. You don't have to, you want to learn how not to have to actively think about it in order for it to be regarded as it's present, it's real. So you think about these various parts of the body as the reason for your experience, and then you let it be. And then say you're still mindful of it. Like we can do it now. Think about your heart. And then give it the significance in the sense of don't just think about like a picture of a heart, but think your beating heart right now. That you can actually feel beating. Do you have any volitional power over it? Can you tell it to slow down? Can you tell it to speed up? No. Can you tell it to stop? Can you tell it to never stop? Can you tell it to not get sick? Can you tell it to not get blocked and clogged up? None of it, which means it's utterly inaccessible to you. Yet, now at the same time, think about what if that heart were to stop now? Would you be able to remain alive? You wouldn't. So your whole life right now, while we're talking about, depends on something, well basically depends on your heart in the same sense that it depends on a random ticking clock in the world that you have no control over. That ticking clock stops, your heart basically stops. That's what it is. And that's it. So you don't have to like, I must keep attending this, I must keep... Now you already set up the experience, allow it to endure. So now your mind might move further. There is a cup of tea or coffee. But if I ask you now, 15 seconds later, the perception of the significance of your heart that has been now left to drift into that peripheral, it's still there. You haven't forgot it, because I haven't forgot it, because we've been talking about it together. And we can be silent a bit longer, talk about something else, but actually see, there is still a thread there. The heart which we spoke about like 30 seconds ago now, that phenomenon is still there. We are not attending to it, yet it's still there. You haven't completely lost it. And then the time will come when you will completely lose it. And that's the important point.
Or forget about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When you forget about it. When you go back to it, you go back to it in the same manner as it is enduring now. Not as something I must overly attend this. No, it's already there. It's already determination for your life. Whether you tell to yourself that or not, doesn't matter. So you want to stop having to tell that to yourself, and you want to start learning how that thing will tell it to you. Because things are genuinely impermanent and cannot be owned and cannot be controlled. But you can't see that because you depend on you telling yourself that things are genuinely impermanent, cannot be owned and so on. So yeah, you have to start like that, but you have to see that it has to come from the thing, not from you. And you will see that if you allow things to endure. So, it's been a minute and a half now. The perception of the significance of the heart is still there, isn't it? It faded, but it's still there. That background connection, so to speak, hasn't been lost. Although we already went through 3 different topics on top of it. But it's still there. It's still enduring on the general peripheral level. In both our minds, actually. You know. That's my whole point. It's not like some, I don't know, spiritual, intuitive knowledge. No, it's the clarity of phenomena. You know, no, that's what we've been talking about. It's enduring there. You can attend to all sorts of things, but that thing is still there. On its own. That's the important bit. That's how you stop putting the emphasis, that's how you shift it onto the phenomena that has arisen and enduring, not onto me attending it. That's how you place yourself second, basically. And when the sense of self is second, it's not a sense of self anymore. Sense of self is always the first, the master. So in the background of your mind, the perception of the significance of the beating heart, we spoke about it, is it still there? It is, isn't it? It's not gone. And there hasn't been a single active effort made. I must bring this back. No. But what we did do is clarify the significance of it. And now it's enduring. You set it up rightly and now it's enduring. And it's still there actually. All this time it's persisting. The same thing is persisting while it's changing on all this particular level through discussing all these various things. And that's what I mean. things we're discussing now are simultaneous present with the background that's enduring. That it's a different thing from them. They change at different speed, but they're simultaneously there. They don't connect, they don't merge, they're simply two things standing. One in the background from where you look. Which means if your attention looks at one side, it's going to be on the other side. That's just how it works. That's why you can choose sides. That's why you can look at this or at that. Because the options are given.
But now I might start thinking about other things, whatever.
You start thinking about the other things, you use the same principle of allow your mind to get established upon the significance of that peripheral and then let it go. Let your mind think other things. See now, is there still significance of the heart present? It is. And I know it is. I know it is in your mind as well. And I can't enter your brain and read your mind. But I can see the phenomena that we established. But what it did change a bit. It faded even more now. Because our topics are taking us further from it. So we keep introducing the new significance. And then what's going to happen is, when you look back and think about the significance of the heart, it's going to arise as a memory. As in the enduring phenomena has ceased. And then you realize now you have the experience of what was the enduring phenomena, which now is enduring. And that's how the same significance of these perceptions can be re-established at a finger's snap. Because you don't have to go through the same motions and methods to it's already implied in it. You just need to clarify your discernment. It's still there.
So you have to keep on topic. Would you say you have to keep on topic if you were trying
to the extent, yeah, but basically establishing that significance rightly would sort of create that enduring context. But you don't have to keep, this is the context, this is the context, this is the context, context, context. No, it's there. You let it endure. And then what do I do then? You don't do anything. You let your mind think. Just make sure it doesn't go into sensuality, ill will and cruelty. That's it. That's all you have to do. Just prevent it from going there. If it doesn't want to go there, you don't have to do anything. That's how you make your own sense of self redundant. How's the enduring significance of the heart? Is it still there, or has it sufficiently changed to be called a different thing?
It's still there, but I'm not wondering if it starts to mean more.
What do you mean?
More significance. Like you see, it's unattractive.
Well, no, you can take it, sure. You can take it in different ways, in different angles, yeah.
You can see different aspects of it, maybe.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's also how you go beyond doubt. See, if your mind is established upon the peripheral, upon the nature of an enduring phenomena, no amount of your active movements of your mind, is it not, all of that is secondary to that enduring significance that you have established. So you can't doubt it. You can doubt what you're attending. But the background of attention is that which you cannot attend. And you cannot doubt that if you start discerning it. If you keep confusing it and thinking that you can attend the background of your attention in the same sense you think you can see the eye because of which you see, then yeah, you are still affected by doubt. It has changed quite a bit now, the significance of the beating heart that we discussed 5 minutes ago. But it's still there. It's still the same thing. You could see, no, it's still the same phenomenon. That's what Nyanamoli was talking about. The identity, the self-identity of a self-enduring phenomenon that people confuse with their own self-identity. The identity of that thing, it's still there. It's still the same thing. So in that sense, you are responsible for establishing your mind correctly. Only so to let go and allow that establishment to endure. If done rightly, it will endure. That's how we enter jhana as well. That's why it was said in that Majjhima Nikaya, like, a monk doesn't think, I am entering the jhana now, or I will enter the jhana. No, he sets up his mind, he sets up the right significance, and then the mind gets established upon the theme of jhana. And that's why, while that theme is enduring, in the same sense, the phenomena of the beating heart now, which is the basically implication of repulsion, impermanence, non-sensuality, indifference, upekkha, all of that is implied in the phenomena we clarified of heart cannot be on, yet it's the reason because of which you are there in the first place. So you establish your mind like that, then you won't be able to think for as long as such phenomena is enduring of, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Because it's not self-centered, it's not rooted in you anymore, it's rooted in a proper foundation, which is the foundation of the uncontrollable matter, the five aggregates that cannot actually be owned, and so on.
So if it becomes developed, or the knowledge is developed sufficiently enough, does it then...
Dispassion.
Dispassion is the sign.
Dispassion is a sign, dispassion is the result.
Then is one always aware of the background?
Sure. Because that's not something you attend to.
But then one is always aware of the background.
Yeah, whichever the background is at the time. Hence the arahant is like always mindful.
It doesn't have to be specific.
Like people think, for as long as people think mindfulness is what you attend, then they can't comprehend how can arahant be always mindful, and not be a robot at the same time. No, this is how he's mindful. Because his extent of his discernment has been developed so far now that what we speak about, this significance of the beating heart, is a very low level phenomena upon which you can establish your mind. Imagine you discern within that and within that, and there is always something enduring for as long as these aggregates don't break apart. So that's what Buddha meant, or he develops mindfulness to the extent necessary for the final knowledge. Exactly, to the extent. So that's how you can, like, as I said, all the things that were implied in the perception of the beating heart. That's not in your control, yet it determines your whole life simultaneously while you're alive. You can go further within the same perception. What is the characteristics? What are the nimittas of that significance of that beating heart? Oh, it's like not my control. So my sense of control fundamentally depends upon the greater domain of non-control, of inaccessible to my control. That's nothing other than anicca. So you develop the perception of impermanence correctly. Cannot be owned, cannot be appropriate, it cannot be controlled. It's impermanent.
So that everything implies that.
Yeah.
Everything that is
The universal characteristics are the most universal. But as I said, if sometimes the mind just won't be sort of getting established upon because it's too subtle and it got too distracted, whatever. You bring it down. That's why the Buddha had such a various range of different approaches. Look at the dead corpse. Yeah. On some days that will not be necessary because it will be enough just to think about a phenomenon of non-control, and it will be fully establishing dispassion, renunciation, relinquishing, and everything else. But on some days you won't. But either way, you're developing the same principle.
So to know that you are developing correctly, or you've actually got somewhere in development, then the sign of dispassion is always there.
Yeah, the sign of freedom from suffering
will always be there.
If the mind is properly established.
In regard to everything that you're experiencing, that.
Why? Because again, you have shifted the emphasis from me and I onto the enduring phenomena that exist on its own. So even when the disagreeable things arise, it's like it becomes inconceivable to become involved in the personal manner. It's just the wind blows, the branches fall, the sun shines, the heart beats, people shout abuse at you. It's on the same level. That's what the Buddha listed it. has like elements to be endured, or enduring the malicious speech and hurtful speech and so on.
It's like the breath. You can breathe. Breathing is always there.
Yeah.
The intention to breathe, maybe, to be more specific. I suppose.
Sure. Well, just breathing. Breathing is always
breathing.
there. You can say that. Yeah.
But I can sit now and play with my breath, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. But you want to know.
Know that.
So you want to start like now. For most people, because they're too concerned with what they attend. Even the people who try to practice, breath is pretty much peripheral in regard to their other actions. Breath goes into the background. But if you bring the breath into the foreground, as in like, okay, I'm sitting here, breathing in, breathing out.
Yeah, the in and out breath.
Exactly. You don't do it as a sense of, oh, I'm going to be attending every second of this. You bring it to the foreground so that you will see the background of the breath. For most of the day-to-day experience, breath is in the background. And again, you can establish significance. Will you be alive if the breathing stops? If your airways get blocked? No. So you could establish the same principle as we just did of dispassion, relinquishment, non-control, not-self, by seeing the background of your breath. Or you can, why don't I refine it further and start seeing the background of the actual act of breathing. And that's how Anapanasati Sutta goes. Where it says, knowingly he breathes in, knowingly he breathes out. Not like I'm breathing in, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing. Now I'm breathing out, breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. No, he's breathing in, breathing out, and he knows it. Which means now he's discerning even more general background to that. Because that's what's in front of him. He puts his mindfulness to the fore, as the sutta says. Okay, I'm sitting here, I'm not doing anything else except breathing. I'm not controlling it, I'm just doing it. I can do it like this or I can do it, doesn't matter. What matters is knowing the background of that doing. And that's how you establish mindfulness of the breathing. Mindfulness is synonymous basically with background. So when you say mindfulness, say background. So you can call mindfulness of breathing as background of the breathing.
So what's the background of the breathing is?
Well, fundamentally it comes down to the knowledge of action, any action, because breathing is an action. Well, that would be like if you fully discern it. But what is like initially what it would be, the background of the breathing is the knowledge of breathing, knowledge of the necessity of breath, the necessity of the body. And again, when I say necessity of those things means you are not necessary, these things are necessary. So it's like narrowing down the field of your concern, like, oh, I must do this, I must do that, and you get distracted. Well, you can't get distracted. That's why it says, oh, you develop this, and the body you're discerning that is the body, is the body among the bodies, as in, is the body that stands for the phenomenon of the body at the time. So you use your breathing basically as like a natural confinement for the concern of your thought. And you become mindful of it properly when you start discerning the background of that confinement. But you cannot, as I said, you discern the confinement because breathing is already there, whether you attend to it or not. You certainly don't make a mechanical method out of it. Watch my nostril, watch my nostril, watch my nostril.
Well, there's no background.
Exactly. You fully just... Well, there is a background, but you're actively looking away from... You're actively trying to focus on what's in front of you.
So what about, as example, like when you learn something, 2 plus 2 equals 4. You know that now. So every time you look at 2 plus 2...
The knowledge is there.
Yeah.
So imagine the same principle applied to the universal nature of experience. Whenever you look at anything that has arisen, you see its cessation. Has the insight of Sotapanna. Whatever has the nature of arising. Not whatever has arisen in front of me, it's impermanent. Whatever has the nature of arising means it's already a peripheral knowledge. The nature is something you cannot attend. You can discern based on things you're attending. So you discern that whatever it has the nature of arising, for that reason, has to cease.
Whatever has the nature, whatever has arisen has the sign of
cessation. Because of its arising.
So,
not because it's going to disappear, but because it has arisen. So whenever things arise for you, which is for as long as the five aggregates exist, means you see impermanence. That's why arahantship is irreversible. Right view is irreversible. You cannot forget that because everything contains it. Everything. That's why it's such a general statement, because that's the most accurate way you could say it. Whatever has the nature of arising has the nature of ceasing because of that. That's it.
So that significance, that sign is always there, because whatever is manifested is always there.
Exactly.
So therefore,
and that is its nature. That's why the Dhamma, as in the phenomena, and in the Dhamma as in the teaching, is like the nature of, it's the phenomena, the phenomenology, literally, the knowledge of the phenomena. So whatever has the nature of manifestation has the nature of these teaching of the Dhamma, as in the nature of impermanence and so on.
Because that's the most general and the most...
it's the most fundamental.
Now look at the breath. Or now I'll contemplate the body. Now I'll contemplate the sixth sense. This, that. But if you look at manifestation...
Yeah. Well, no, you look at the breath, you contemplate the body, so to keep discerning this nature of manifestation clearer and clearer.
Right. Yeah, that's the more...
When I say nature manifestation, I mean what I said when we were establishing the significance of the beating heart. Already there on its own, manifested. You're not creating it by attending it. You can only attend it because it's already there, enduring. You cannot create anything from nothingness into, like, bring it into being. Because you are the result of it. Your attention is already secondary to it, structurally. Not as 1, 2, 3. It's all like within the same arisen basis of the present form paired with consciousness that you cannot step outside of. So any movement you make within it, it's within it. So you trying to attend that would require you to step outside of it and see it as an object, but that's inconceivable. And if you keep doing it, it's because you're misconceiving that you can do it. So that's what I mean, you want to discern these universal characteristics onto things, not onto you attending and they exist only when I attend to them. And that's how you uproot your sense of self. Now, you can't step outside of yourself or the five aggregates, but you can certainly stop misconceiving them, but that can be done only from the inside.
Well, that's, a bhikkhu, how is a bhikkhu a long distance shooter? Anyway. Yeah, any kind of form whatsoever, past, future, present, whatever. A bhikkhu sees all form as it really is with correct wisdom.
Yeah, so shooting the peripheral discernment. That's what I mean, like the significance of the heart. Then within that you can discern what's further. What's more refined significance that this beating heart already implies. Which is the significance of earth, significance of water, fire, significance of impermanence, significance of non-control.
Yes,
so if a bhikkhu is a long distance shooter, is if he doesn't even have to anymore go through like establish significance of the heart to discern these other more refined significances, his mind is already developed to the level of discerning refined significances in whatever has arisen. And those refined significances, the refined signs, are the impermanence, 4 great elements, or whatever.
And how is a bhikkhu a sharp shooter?
He goes for the significances that are fundamental to freedom from suffering, basically. Is it?
Yeah, this is suffering.
There you go. Yeah, because that's all it matters. Yeah, you would arrive at that. Which sutta is that? What is that?
It's the warrior. 181. I'm going to 4.
4s.
Yeah, warrior.
Yeah, like you would arrive at that through contemplating the independence of the great matter, your dependence on it, and so on. You would eventually drain away any conceit, any misconceiving, which would result in freedom from suffering. Or if you're shoot precisely, you go straight for freedom from suffering, because that's already implied.
That's what the most general, like things on
The
arisen.
most fundamental. Yeah.
They will cease, so you develop that. And
Yeah. That's it.
they
That's
don't
it.
want to be.
That's also how, like Panya Vimutti, one liberated through wisdom, where he discerns only things relevant to liberation. He doesn't develop like all the jhanas and everything else, but discerns the right things to the sufficient extent. See, like now when you speak about it, for most people who listen to this, it will be quite an abstract thing. But the only reason it's abstract is because the mind hasn't been developed in regard to that abstraction. So start developing it. Start discerning it in arisen things that endure for you, in front of you, throughout your daily life. That's because these things are there. They will remain abstract for as long as you don't see where they are. So you abstract them, literally.
Or how is a bhikkhu one who splits a great body? Here, a bhikkhu splits the great mass of ignorance. Possessing these four qualities, he is worthy of offerings. And how is a bhikkhu skilled in places? He is virtuous, seeing the danger in the slightest fault, etc.
That's also where you see the danger. It's in that peripheral. The danger is in the background. The danger is the implication of what's in front of you. The danger is the context that you create. Like Buddhajana doesn't see the danger in sensuality. But if he starts thinking about it, discerning it, he'll get to see it because it is actually dangerous. That's how you can develop the danger in the slightest fault and not become neurotically obsessed about every little thing that's in front of you, fearing it. Because that's not where the danger is. That's where the simile of the beautiful, tasty beverage. You can't see the poison in it, but you know it. Which means ultimately the danger of sensuality is rooted in the background and can never come in front of you and be seen in the same manner you see object of your senses. That's why people are intoxicated with sensuality, despite the experiences always proving that it's actually painful. Because you only regard things as real is the things that you can see through your senses, usually. So you want to discern, and that danger, as I said, never leaves the peripheral. Never becomes like, oh yeah, I see the danger with my eyes. No, you still see the beautiful object. But now you have fully understood and you fully discern the danger, the significance of the enduring peripheral object. The significance of the enduring beautiful object is the peripheral danger, always. It is it. It's not maybe, or like danger will come after. It's it. The beverage, the drink that contains poison that will kill you, you can't see it, you can't smell it, it's undetectable. And that's the Buddha simile. I'm not making this up. The poison is undetectable. So, unless you know there's poison there, you'll be drinking it. And that's what people do. So you have to know that poison is there. And you have to stop ignoring the fact that poison is there. And then you get to see that whatever is beautiful, yeah, you fully understood. This is dangerous, this will kill me. Poison is there. But you can't see the poison, you can't extract it and see like, look, this is the poison, see? Because that would then imply that other things you can see don't have that poison. So poison is in everything you see, hear, smell, taste, touch it. In everything that's agreeable contains the poison because it's agreeable. You could think that agreeability of things, it's what poison is. But that in itself, it's not dangerous, isn't it? What's dangerous is you carelessly ingesting the poison. You carelessly welcoming the agreeability. Delighting in it, saying yes to it.
So the danger is not the result.
No, exactly. The danger is that significance of it. If you take it, then that danger befalls you. Oh, it's dangerous to go to those forests. Yeah, you don't go. But it's dangerous to go to a forest, and it's like, well, I'll be fine. And then you go.
Yeah. So, because what we usually say, danger of sensuality is if you overindulge.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Blah blah blah, confused, sick.
Yeah. That's on the level of perception, basically.
Anger will increase. your lust will increase.
Yeah. Well, like I suppose somebody who's completely unrestrained has to start like rounding it up from such a
I lose
crude
my
manner.
I lose my money.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
lose my friends.
Yeah,
whatever.
sure, those are reflections that complete asutta putujana will have to go through in order to begin. But that's not the danger. That's why the Buddha would say, you're not free from sensuality until the danger becomes apparent. And the danger has not become apparent if in only way for you to even get a sense of danger, you have to get through the motion of repeating how dissatisfying sensuality actually is. And that's on the level of psychologization, like rationalizing. Yeah, it can, as I said, it can help somebody who's absolutely no ground for practice. But you want to go way beyond that. You want to be able, seeing the agreeable equals seeing the danger. Although you can't see the danger with your eyes, seeing the agreeable equals knowing the danger. That's why Buddha said knowledge is secondary to perception. But yet, you can equally have perception without knowledge being present there. So knowledge is not in perception, which means you can't perceive the knowledge. But you can know that which you perceive at the same time. Literally, a cup of drink in front of you, and you're drinking it, and it's very good. People told you it's healthy. People told you it's going to prolong your life and cure cancer. And it's like, wow. And then somebody comes and tell you that it's actually going to kill you, going to shorten your life. See, both could be right, as in you don't know which one's right. But the fact now that it's been placed into doubt that it's good for you, it's actually enough for you to back off from it. Oh, better not take any chances. Perhaps I don't need a longer life. As long, because it might actually shorten it. Mm-hmm. Let alone if it actually becomes apparent that no, the second guy was right. It will kill you quicker. It will ruin you.
So the danger, the danger.
Yet the cup, the content, nothing has changed. It's all in front of you. Your experience of it is still the same. Exactly. You start discerning the danger even in might. That's what I'm saying.
So
the fact that you don't know for yourself that it's good for you, that's already dangerous. And if you start thinking like that, the danger will become apparent. The danger that is actually there. But you can't see that until you arrive at it. As in, you can't know that for yourself. You have to take it on trust. That sensuality is dangerous. And start regarding it as such. And because it is dangerous, your way of regarding it will eventually mirror how it is, and you get to understand it.
So sensuality, as in you want to see sensuality.
Go on.
You want to see it in front of you.
Sensuality,
yeah.
Sure. The domain of sensuality, the domain of sensual attraction. The domain of seeking pleasure on the grounds of your own body. Smell, taste, sight, smell, taste, touch, and so on.
The domain or option of sensuality.
All of that is sensuality, yeah. And now the peripheral of that perception of sensuality is the knowledge of the danger. It's the significance of the danger. It's the implication of the danger.
But if you don't have the knowledge of the danger, what are you looking for?
Well, first, if you don't discern the phenomenon of sensuality, you're not going to. In the same sense, as I said, mindfulness of breathing, it's like a confinement that represents all the other actions you do in your life on account of your breathing. But then you're not doing that confinement. You want to discern the background of that confinement. Then that makes everything inferior to that even clearer. So in the same sense, you want to discern the extent of sensuality in order to discern the background of the danger. That's why the Buddha would always start and say, the gratification of sensuality has been understood. The danger has become apparent. Yeah, not like the danger has become apparent and then I understand. No, by understanding the extent of sensuality, by understanding its gratification, then the background of that, the danger becomes clear. But not before you understand the extent of basically physical pleasures, craving for physical pleasures. And you can only understand the extent if you start looking for the extent. And the extent, the gratification of sensuality is not in the particular engagement with this sensuality. It's in the background of your particular engagement. So, yeah. So
all the possibilities.
Exactly. So by saying no to the particular engagement of sensuality, there are obviously sensualities that you cannot be mindful of. The ones that take the mind too far out. such as non-celibacy, killing, lying, stealing. So you abandon that.
Yeah.
But now you have to eat. Within that, you're going to get pleasant taste in your mouth. But I must spit this out because it's too pleasant. No, you don't see the gratification there. You fear everything. You spit in the object, but that's not what sensuality is. Sensuality is your attitude in regard to the object you're attending. So if all you do is attend to things, you're never going to see your attitude in regard to it. So now you live restrained, you're not breaking vinaya, you see the danger in the slightest fault. When you encounter agreeable things that are based for sensuality, that's when you start looking for the background of that. You allow it to arise. Well, the taste is in my mouth. The Buddha doesn't say spit the food. He said, no, eat mindfully. As in, eat while you're aware of the background of your pleasant taste. Don't get absorbed with the pleasant taste. And people try to not get absorbed with the pleasant taste by, focusing on other things or avoiding or twisting their tongue to avoid the taste and whatnot. No, that's equally on the same footing where the taste is. You want to just know the background of the pleasant taste. That's already clarifying the extent of gratification. The clearer the extent of gratification, the perception of gratification becomes, the significance of the danger becomes clearer. Hence, the gratification became clear, the danger has been seen, has become apparent. And then the way out from sensuality and that gratification is automatic.
So to see the extent, the possibilities, whatever you experience.
First, you have to be restrained, not give in to distraction. Because if you intentionally give in to sensuality, you can't establish that mindfulness because your intention already distorted it. Yeah. It's already inverted, perverted. But if agreeable things that are based for sensuality come to you without your intention necessarily being rooted in seeking the pleasure in them, that's where you start discerning the peripheral. That's where the gratification of sensuality becomes clearer. That's why sila has to come first. It's just not optional. But that's what I mean. The problem is when sila comes first, and then the denial of anything pleasant that comes, even if it's not sought by you, becomes the next attitude. Oh, I want this. This taste is way too nice, so I only eat things that I hate. Well, you are basically misconceiving sensuality. You think sensuality is in the actual taste, and you think that by avoiding taste you avoid sensuality. No, you just obscure it further.
So if you were free from sensuality, free from it, you would be what? What would be? You would have, if you had right view.
And free from sensuality.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be anagami.
But
if you don't have the right view, you could be free from sensuality, and then you would need very, very little instruction to get the right view, because you've already done 80% of the work. 80% of the fundamental existential distraction, which is the senses, have been tamed and surmounted and understood.
Because if you see things as whatever has arisen, the background is it will cease.
Yeah.
And then you turn your mind to what is the extent of sensuality.
Exactly. You see the same principle. And also those who don't see that principle, but have seen the sensuality, they have removed pretty much the sole reason for not seeing impermanence. Virtually, sensuality is the main reason. Because sensuality is the results in distraction and everything else. So you have removed that. You have understood that. You develop your mind in regard to it. You have seen the peripheral of that domain. You've seen the danger in it. And then you just need somebody to tell you what the impermanence of phenomena is, and you will be you will immediately go straight to anagami, basically, or even arahant.
No.
Because you already done all the work.
So when you say that, the danger of sensuality is being pulled in the foreground.
Yeah. See, all that is accurate, but you want to see that now, not as a statement that you made, but you actually want to see it coming from that sensuality. But in order to see it, yeah, you have to be clarifying that understanding. Even those statements for yourself. The more you clarify it, the more of the significance is being clarified. And then you will get to recognize it.
Yeah, because I would have said,
Yeah, but fundamental danger of sensuality is exactly that. You cannot remain not pulled, not distorted by the foreground. You cannot.
So that's what I wanted to say, that the danger of sensuality is, and I was going to say, but I thought maybe I was slightly wrong, saying this is the result of sensuality is the fact that you are pulled into the sense perceptions, the sensual world, and therefore are not able to be mindful. You are not. You are confused. You are.
Sure. Yeah, that is like a cumulative result of sort of not abandoning sensuality and engaging with it. Yeah.
The danger is being lost. That you will be.
Well, the danger is not being free.
Yeah, lost in ignorance, not free.
You're only free when you surmount the danger. You're only free when you surmount the ignorance. So if you don't surmount it, you're not free. And that in itself that's the danger of samsara. Not free means samsara.
So am I not then seeing the danger in sensuality?
Well,
if I see that.
Well, you are seeing to some extent, sure. But you want to see that to the point of where you have completely sort of any desire towards it has faded away towards sensual enjoyment. And it will fade away when the danger becomes perception of danger, basically. That background implication, significance of danger is like developed to the extent necessary. Whereby no matter how much you get distracted, you'll never ever go back to the point of being distracted that you actually want sensuality. In the same sense, like you vomit the food that you ate. You're never ever going to get so hungry to eat that stuff that's moldy and filthy and mixed with soil. It's just not perceived as edible anymore. That's how far you want to go. But sensuality, it ceased to be perceived as worthy of engagement. It's actually the opposite. Non-engagement is what's worthy. Non-engagement is what freedom is. Engagement is death. Results in death, implies death. Makes you liable to death. Literally.
So if you
literally, like, you wouldn't be killed if somebody comes and shoots you in the head. That's not death. Death is sending your mind back down the senses. That's how you get killed. Because if you take your mind away from the senses, you surmount sensuality, even if somebody comes and shoots you in the head, you are not killed. So that's what Buddha said, those who are not mindful, those who are not properly established upon the peripheral background discernment of that significance, they are as if they are already dead. Yeah.
Because if you see the extent of sensuality, then you know very well when you step into it.
Oh yeah, it cannot be done accidentally. It's always a choice.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's always a choice.
So with if you see the extent of sensuality, you also see your choice of the choice.
Yeah. If you're aware of the background, you're aware of you about to make a choice. You're aware of the possibilities to choose, which means you realize, I'm already responsible. I'm already choosing basically a direction of sensuality even before I directly engage with it.
So it's basically seeing the choice of sensuality.
Sure.
It's also seeing the extent of sensuality.
Seeing the extent of sensuality. Seeing the background of sensuality, yeah. Discerning gradually significance of it, yeah. Taking responsibility for the choice. Yeah. That's another approach to the same thing.
Because